So we can congratulate ourselves now that we are done with section 1. Our second church plant, of course, I was coaching the church planter, and then I was struggling, and I asked him what was the cause of the struggle, and he said, I think we started the church, opened the church very early, and we compromised the preparation period. And you will be hearing us many times throughout these days that do not compromise the foundation of your church plant. You're going to reap the consequences. You're going to face the consequences later on. No? Because these people that you are working with, they don't know this process. They just like for you to have the church, right? And it feels successful and everything, but down the road you don't know that it's a weak foundation. No? And so that's why it took us this length of time to discuss with you the preparation period. A month ago, we transferred to a new house, and I don't have an office, and so I decided to build an office behind the house in the garden. And it took me a while to do the foundation. And I know that it's the hardest. People don't see it, right? The foundation. But when you compromise the foundation, it's the whole building that will suffer. It is in the same manner in church planting. Those things, like the last section, emotional preparation, sometimes we set that aside and say, no, I'm mature enough to handle these things. But please don't do that. No. We would like to see you healthy, because here's the thing, here's the philosophy. Okay, listen to this, very important. A healthy church planter produces a healthy church. An unhealthy church planter will produce an unhealthy church. Yeah. And so, I don't know, some of you will come back for the coaching, and you'll find out that we will be spending many long hours in our coaching to see to it that the church planter is healthy. No, is healthy because he will produce. So, that's what we have done the last section, the planter preparation. Because we would like to build a solid foundation. And again, as we have said, a big percentage of church failure is that they compromise the foundation, they start early. In California, we planted 6 churches, and we closed one. I think a year ago. And of all the 6 church plants that we had, that was the church that started very fast, in the sense that a group of people invited our church planter, and then they started right away the church. Like within the next 4 or 6 months, they have that. When I say started, it means that they have public worship service. All the 5 churches that's still existing almost took us a year or 2 before we had public worship service. And the reason is that it was almost all a pioneering church plant. No. But the one that started with like right away had a public worship service is not there anymore. And when we evaluate it, as leaders, you need to go back, right? Evaluate it, what happened, so that it will not happen again. You learn lesson. That was the initial, and eventually that was the main reason, that the foundation was compromised. They started right away. Core values was not yet really well established. And then the leadership, especially the core group, did not really share in the vision of the church. And so when there was a problem, they vaulted out. They left the church one by one. Then eventually we need to close the church. So again, please take time in the foundational section of the preparation. Okay. So that was the preparation. The second section is the conception. This is the first stage of church planting, in the sense that now, after all the preparation, you started now to think about the church. Okay, the shape, the form, the personality, the direction, the mission, core values. These are the things, and basically in this whole church planting training, this is the heart. Yeah. Some of you will say, well, the first section is so hard already. How much more this section? This is the heart of the training, okay? This next few sessions is the heart of the training. When we talk about the mission, the core value, the target people, shared value of the core of the church, those are very important. And this is where basically the dream is born. No? I don't know how God wired you, but for me, you take away vision in my life, and it's almost like I'm not existing anymore. Yeah, vision to me is very, very important. No? I know some vision of mine were not accomplished. I will never reach them. It's okay, but that's one thing why I wake up in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock in the morning. Some of you like, life is not fair, but I sleep usually 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, so I wake up late as well. But that's the reason why I wake up in the morning, because I'd like to pursue my dream. The dream, of course, that God has given me. And basically it's about discipleship and seeing people come to know Jesus Christ. Okay? Will somebody read this in your language? Ephesians 3:20. Can you read it from there? Can you read it for us?
Tomu však, ktorý pôsobením svojich moci v nás a nad to všetko môže urobiť o mnoho viac, ako my prosíme alebo rozumieme, tomu sláva v cirkvi a v Kristovi Ježišovi vo všetkých pokoleniach na veky veku.
Okay, amen. Beyond, to Him who is able to do far more abundantly than all that we ask or think, according to the power at work within us, to Him be glory in the church and in Christ Jesus through all generations forever and ever. This is my experience in my church plant. I was in the first year, as I prepare, I have a vision of planting one church. And then it changed right away. Because of my conversation with Steve and all the training. And then maybe we can plant more churches. And then it changes again. The vision changed again after 5 years. Maybe we can change multiple churches. And then 10 years ago, that was changed, and it was more, we're going to start a church planting movement. That's very different. Never in my dream in my life that I'll be able to say that. Say, why don't we start a church planting movement? It's a movement that we're going to start here. And how the Lord has provided for us. Limited time, we started the church without money. Yeah. We were staying in Ohio. I have 3 kids at the time. I have twin kids, twin boys, my first, and then another boy. They were 10 and 9 years old. And the district cannot even fly us. Yeah. Because we didn't have money. From Cincinnati, Ohio to California. We have to take the train. That's how we started. And
discount fare that we found.
yeah. the office found that if you buy a Disney movie, you will have a discount when you buy the train tickets. For 5 people, and we were 5 people. So that's what they have done. And so, but here's the thing, they thought that that was something new. I left Manila with the agreement with God that I will walk by faith. My father is a very successful lawyer. He's a rich guy, not me, but he is. And everything is provided for me. And I left Manila saying I would like to live by faith because I'm tired reading the Bible, them leading a faith life, and I don't have that. Have you experienced that? You read the Bible, Abraham, Paul, and it's like, that's not me. How come I don't experience these things? And so I left Manila, and that was the agreement that I will live by faith. So that's it. So God provided one after the other. And so that's why this verse is very meaningful. It's very personal to me. That He's able to do far more abundantly. And that's why it's a God story, not your story. Okay, the objective of this section is to clearly understand the conception stage of the church planting in order to plant a healthy, growing, and multiplying church. Now, that's a handful, okay? We would like to have a healthy, growing, multiplying church. Okay? Even the first word, healthy, those don't happen automatically. You have to be very, very intentional for you to have a healthy, growing, multiplying church. And believe me, it starts in vision, in mission. Daniel will do the mission. For me, the mission statement of our church planting movement is very important because it's about planting healthy churches in the world. Because you evaluate our lives, our ministry on the basis of our mission. Now, you don't come to my church and say, Pastor Jun, your praise and worship is not good, your camp is not good, your Sunday school is not good. And maybe you're failing and say, no, don't evaluate me on the basis of the other churches around me. You evaluate me on the basis of the mission statement of our church because everything that we do is based on our mission statement. And our mission statement says that we will multiply healthy churches in the world. Are we failing on that or are we succeeding on the basis of that mission? Because people will go to your church who have maybe the money, the articulation and everything, and they will make you feel like bad because you're not doing your job, right? And they will evaluate your life, your church on the basis of the way they look at things. No? And that's not good. No? So are you failing or succeeding on the basis of your vision, of your mission? That is the question. Because the measurement should be the mission statement of your church. The measurement, whether you're successful, you're going into the right direction, is not the mega churches around the world or in America, but what is the mission that God has called you to do? You know, that should be the measurement. And so when we say we would like to plant a healthy, growing, multiplying church, that could be a measurement. Are we multiplying? Are we growing? Do we have even a good concept and understanding of what a healthy church is? We were in the Caribbean, in Barbados, and we presented the definition of what a healthy church is. And few came to us and said, you know, this is one of the most important section of the training because now we know what it is, you know, to have a healthy church. And so what comes to my mind was that before that, how do you evaluate your ministry if you don't know what it is to be a healthy church, right? So what happens is that you keep comparing yourselves, right, to the churches that seemingly successful. And that's not good because you know why? Because we are not in competition with those churches. When I first planted this church, there were already 2 Filipino churches in town. One that is so charismatic and the other one conservative. And very clear, God said to me, you're planting a church, you're not competing with them. So do not copy them, right? So I will not, if God called me to copy them, why do I need to plant a church, right? So we define the church and say, okay, what do you want us for us to be? Why do you want us to plant this church? Okay. What does it mean to be a healthy church? No? Growing and multiplying. And in this time period, okay, if we're going to compare it, this is the time of the first trimester. Women and men who knew about human reproduction, that the first trimester is the time wherein the internal organs are being developed, right? And it's in this period wherein the personality of the baby, the complexion of the skin, almost everything, no? The DNA, everything is being developed. So, in the same manner, the baby church plant developed its ministry nervous system as well. So that's why we said the coming section, the second section, is the most important aspect, because we are now going to develop the personality of the church, the direction of the church, what kind of church God has called you to do. Okay, the development task: to develop and articulate the mission, the core values, the target group, the vision, and the disciple-making pathway. So those 5 aspects: mission, core values, target group, vision, and disciple-making pathway, will be the nervous system of your church plant. Okay? I know this will be a bit confusing, especially for you, for those who have maybe attended church planting conference, or maybe you have a different definition. We will ask for you to somehow, in order for us to be effective in these few days, we would like for you to accept at least the way we define these things. Okay? What I'm trying to say is that give us a chance to define, no? And maybe hold lightly to your own definition, and consider at least the definition that we're going to present to you. Okay? The first trimester, which is the end goal of that time, is to be in agreement with your core group about the description of your intended church. We always emphasize the core group because here's the thing: your core group will make or break your church plant. And that's why you recruit only people who are in passionate agreement with the core values, direction of your church. Okay? Do not bring people into the core group of the church who will not agree with your mission, core values, and direction of the church. What will happen is that you will keep on fighting, and it will weaken the foundation of the church. Okay? So the key concept or issues here is to develop a clear and compelling vision. Again, we mentioned about this in the early stage of the preparation, that you need to develop a clear and compelling vision. You keep on writing, rewriting, asking the Lord what kind of vision He's giving you in order for you to know it by your heart, and then able to communicate with it others, because it will come out the way you recruit members of your core group, members of your staff in your church, and then eventually members of the church. Okay? Usually it takes time. It will It will not happen automatically. Again, as told you, I attended this same training that you're going through twice, and there was a span of 1 year for me to articulate these things. The good thing is that the church was not there yet, so it was in the process. And there is a high percentage of future problems occur when this is not done. This is very, very important, that you settle these things to avoid the problems in the future. And also it will make you, it will help you to make the right decision, even recruit the right people. We're going to talk about target group. For example, our target group at that time was the age of 25 to 45 who have young, it's a family, but who have young children. And so there was one woman in our church who would like to become a leader. And we all agreed that she's not qualified, but she would like to become part of the core group. And so that helped us to make this decision and say, you know what, you are not qualified to be part of this church, even though she was part of the early, almost the first family that I recruited in this church plant. So, and that was one of, actually the first test of the leadership in the church. And I was able to somehow respond properly because the vision was very clear to me. The target group was very clear to me. And I was not doing it on a personal basis. I did not invite her to become part of the leader, not because I don't like her. No, actually, when I talked to her, I said, Sister, I love you. I said, I love you, and I really care for your spiritual life and everything, but you are not good to become a leader of this church. No? And I gave her a reason. So I was not doing it on a personal basis. I was not angry with her. I respected her, but she's not qualified according to the vision that we have. Okay? So that's what we meant by that. The nature of the planter, this is a very positive way to put it, the good and not so good. They are the catalytic, they are non-detailed leaders. Usually the church planter is the vision, not only articulator, but also the vision communicator. No? And you see the big picture, not the details. No? You are the one who will be leading, and this is the dream. This is the vision that we're going to have. Okay? And so it's very important that you have that gift. No? Details are important, but you are not tied down with the details. Maybe you'll ask somebody to do that for you, no? Because God has called you to become the leader of this church plant, and you're going to pursue the bigger dream. Okay, the bigger dream. A catalytic leader causes change or action towards accomplishment, so that that is why Paul sent Titus with the different gifts to Crete after the church was planted. In Titus 1:5 NIV version, the reason I left you in Crete so that you might strengthen out what was left unfinished and appoint elders in every town as I directed you. Okay. So Paul was the catalytic leader. He was the church planting movement leader, but he had Titus, Timothy, who are doing the detailed task, no, of making sure that the churches that he had founded will grow and mature and will eventually become a healthy church. But those guys are the ones who are doing the detailed work. Okay? Again, I told you that the Lord shifted the dream that I have. I become the church planting movement leader, and that helps me a lot in making decisions, especially detailed ones. For example, before that, I was coaching about 8 men who were doing church plant, and then when I realized that God has called me to become a church planting movement leader, I started to shift on recruiting only or coaching only. what I call the network leaders, which right now I have 6 people. So I'm coaching 6 people on a regular basis. These 6 men have a network of maybe 3 to 7 pastors under them that they're coaching. Okay? Because from time to time, people will approach me and will say, Pastor Jun, can you coach me? And because of that catalytic leadership that God has somehow put in my heart, I'm able to say no to them because that is not the task that God has called me. The task that God has called me is to become a movement leader, and part of that is to coach network leaders rather than a pastor who is planting a church. Do you see what I'm saying here? For example, Pastor Nino is the leader of our network in Japan. I'm coaching him. Pastor Sam in Borongan, as well as in Samar, Philippines, and Pastor Rene. Both of them have at least 6 or 7 people under them that they're coaching, and I'm coaching them. In Manila, Pastor Jeff, I'm coaching him, and there are at least 7 pastors under him that he's coaching. So we have networks wherein we say, okay, this is a network of maybe 4 pastors, 7 pastors, and I'm the one coaching the leader of that network. So it's very important for us to understand this in order for us to accomplish what God has called us to do, which is, again, as I have said, we would like not only plant a healthy church, not only a growing church, but a multiplying church. A multiplying church. Most church planters are inexperienced. I like this caricature. Because that's me many times over. I never pastored a church more than 6 years. Okay? So every year for me is a new experience. So I've been pastoring this church for 18 years. So you ask me what it means to pastor a church for I don't know, because this is what I never led a movement before. This is the first time, okay? And so 2 things. You need to be very honest and very humble in the sense that you need to learn. No? Because the people that you're leading, you must be ahead of them. Okay? You cannot be with them. It means if you are with them, then you are not leading them, right? You must be ahead of the curve. You must be reading books that they are not reading, and you're the one supporting them. You must be attending conference that they don't attend, and you are the source for them. And I'm not saying you're the Holy Spirit here, but but I'm saying is that you should be ahead of the game. You should be ahead of the game if you want to make an impact in the lives of this. And all of us are inexperienced in this way. But again, we go back to that verse in Ephesians that He is more than able to do what we try to accomplish, because that's the God we have, a very gracious, generous, enabling God. No? So we need training, we need exposure, no? We need collaboration and partnership in order to do this. Now, also we need to learn the nature of planning process, okay? Again, this is not one event. I shared yesterday with a small group of people or the leadership that when I attended this basic training, when they presented this in America in 1998, they presented this in a very linear way, okay? Linear way. And as me as an Asian, I am a cyclical thinker, okay? It was presented to us this way. You do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you have a church, no? Number 6. And I look at it and my mind is saying, I don't understand that, no? I'll give you an example. In the Philippines, in the movie houses, you can enter, okay, in the movie theater anytime. So you can enter in the middle of the movie, at the end of the movie. Yeah. No? In America, you can only enter at the beginning, right? Yeah. But in the Philippines, you can enter in the middle. And my friend, an American friend, will say, you are crazy people. You are a crazy Filipino. Don't you know that there is a plot, there's a story in the movie? So you have to start from the beginning in order for you to understand the end. And we always answer this way. Well, that's not how we experience the movie. If the movie makes us cry, that's a good movie. If the movie makes us laugh, that's a good movie. And if we miss the beginning, we will go back to it later on, right? Yeah, we know that somebody died at the end, but we will pick it up later on who that guy is who died. And so that's the way we think it. Okay? I studied in the seminary for 11 years. I have 3 degrees, okay? Not single Filipino book I've read. So all Western, okay? Even the preaching. And the way we were taught how to preach is that you have the introduction, you need the transitional sentence, you make the propositional truth, and then you exegete it, and then you apply, get an example, and then you apply it, right? Okay? This is how we Filipinos think, okay? You have only 1 point and 17 stories. That's it. We don't care where you put your point, whether it's in the introduction, in the middle, or in the conclusion, as long as you tell good stories. So when I realized this, I made an experiment in the church. I threw all my homiletics book and the way we preach, I started to become Filipino, tell stories. People love it. And that's the time when I made an impact in the lives of those people, because now I'm preaching the Word of God the way God called me as a Filipino thing and everything. So it was hard for me to go through this. That's why I told you I went the second time, because I was asking myself, did I understand it? Because I could not. So anyway, this is not one-time event. When you say, okay, this is what we're going to do, 1, 2, 3, 4. I did not get it. Okay, we just go around. Okay, and we'll pick it up later and learn it. Okay, what is important is that there should be a discipline here in understanding each stage. I'm not saying do not understand the stage. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that maybe one stage you will jump. No, but you will go back to it. No? Do not compromise the vision, the mission. No? But what I'm saying, do you understand what I'm saying here? I know you're laughing, but
Can you tell a story?
now you're teasing me. Yeah.
We have become Filipinos.
That was the question I asked earlier here, not yesterday. I asked, are you a cyclical thinker or a linear thinker?
What, did you hear him?
Yes, we're technically business.
Yeah, but did you hear the explanation why?
No, I did not.
Okay.
Why?
With the remote controller, we can jump into all kinds of channels and programs. Very often, my wife does that.
And do you love it?
And this is not a question what is right or what is wrong. No, people are linear thinker, and that's good. And some people are cyclical thinkers, storytellers. And that's good too. So the question is, and I'm going to give you, I will lead the target group. Okay. The target group is very important. You cannot compromise us, because they're the one who will dictate what kind of methodology you're going to use. Message is the same. We need to preach the gospel, disciple people, no question. Whether you're here in America, in the Philippines, in Asia, in Latin America, the message is the same, disciple people. How you disciple it, the methodology, depends on the people that you are trying to reach. Okay? So this is very important, but there is a cycle here for you to understand. You need to have a shared vision, you need to have mission, core values, disciple pathway. And for cyclical thinkers, it took me like 12 years to understand this. Yes. Yes, Steve.
You started with shared vision, that's the last one.
And that was intentional. Anyway. Any question here? Before we move on.
These will be the next module.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what's so important about the mission vision? We even changed the name of our churches. We have only one name of the church. We are a multi-site church, so one church in many locations. So we changed it. When we fully understood this, we said, I think we need to change our name according to our mission. We recruit people on the basis of our mission statement or our vision. We evaluate people whether they're good workers, team members, if they are good team members according to our mission statement. Yeah. So how that important that is. Yes.
What do you mean by your expression recruit? We recruit people.
Yeah. We meant, for example, when I recruit people means I invite pastors to plant churches. So like I have 3 people in my mind and say are being recommended to me, and then I ask them, evaluate them, assess them. So that's what I meant by recruit. Basically, we are inviting people to join our team. Okay. Is that a bad word here? A weak word? Is that a secular word?
Yes.
Yes. And what's the connotation here?
Churches don't have visions, missions.
So what do you have here? I'm interested. Now you got my attention.
The church is not used to having, I think, like, the churches normally would say, "Yeah, we believe the Bible and we do what the Bible says."
Okay.
We got it.
I think Steve will be presenting what is the core value and doctrinal aspect, and it will open your eyes, believe me. When we had this, like, oh yeah, that is a belief, that is a doctrine. What you're saying now is that this is what we believe. And that's good. But what is your priority? That's important, okay? So, thank you for pointing that out. And that is what happened to me. The last pastorate I had, we did not have mission. I don't know if there was a mission, but I knew for the last 5 years I was there, I was not functioning according to the mission statement. Okay, so I don't know how to evaluate what happened there. No. So, but this one is a good alternative in the sense that you will find out what is your mission.
I think that we will be giving, as we go through, rationale for why these things are important when we get into the actual modules.
Okay. There is a balance here between divine sovereignty and human planning. No? We're not saying that everything dependent on human planning. On the other hand, we do not say also, well, if it's God's will, it will happen. Because God's answer to this even Daniel emphasized very clearly, we are co-workers with God. So human efforts is needed here. No? Proverbs 16:1, to man belongs the plan of the heart, but from the Lord comes the reply of the tongue. 16:9, in his heart a man plans his course, but the Lord determines his step. Proverbs 19:21, you can make many plans, but the Lord's purpose will prevail. The terms we'll use in our basic training, no? Again, there will be, I know, confusion later on, but please give us, be gracious in the sense that use the terminologies we're going to use. And you'll find out that it will really be helpful in understanding these things, okay? So, okay. Because we're going to talk about mission, vision, and core values. And oftentimes, I think almost always, am I right, Steve? Because we brought this to the Philippines, we brought this at least in the Caribbean, in America, almost always, I think, we have a problem here, right? So people were raised there. I think that was the vision, not core values. I think this is a core value, not a mission statement. And so we will try to somehow clear it up to you. No, and again, as I've said, hold lightly to the definition that you have right now, and then at least adapt the definition that we're going to present to you. Okay? But for starter, vision is a clear and compelling picture of your preferred future. No? Vision is what kind of church you're going to have in the next 5 years. No? I mean, in the future. No? What is the church in your mind? No? In 5 years. And so we start defining it, articulating it, and then start to somehow accomplish it. Okay? For example, in 5 years, I'd like my church to have, to plant a church, to be a briband. It means that we have a worship service, we have ministry for the poor, we have ministry for the single women in our community. We would like to reach these people. So that is the future, okay? 5 years from now. Okay? You start working. No? What does it mean for you to accomplish that next month? What are the things that you need to do in order for you to accomplish that? So that is the vision that God has put in your heart. Again, very important to understand that based on your accurate understanding of who God is, yourself, and the ministry context, these things will somehow help you. As an introduction, I'll give you some of the definition. Okay, mission statement is why the church exists. Okay, why do you want to plant the church right now? Let's say here in Selina. No? How many church plants do you have here in this town? Aside from this church, is there any more church plant here, or this is the only church plant that you have? Huh?
Our churches.
I mean,
It's our church plant.
church plants. I mean church plants. And so you ask the question, why do you want to plant a church or plant churches? No? Why do you want more churches? Second, core values, the conviction of the church and its ministry that are most important and non-negotiable. Core value is what is important to you. Okay? For example, I believe, here's the difference between doctrine and let's say core values. Usually core values is how much you spend your time and money, because that's what's important to you, right? Yeah? You know your core value by evaluating how much you spend time and how much you spend money in an activity, let's say. No? So I believe that abortion is sin. That is my doctrine. That is my belief. Okay? But when I look at my schedule, I don't see anything that somehow support that. I don't attend a rally. I don't read a book about it. I don't have anything. And then when I look at my bank account, there is nothing that I give towards that. I believe in that. Okay? But it's not a high value to me. You see that? No? You see the big difference there? Okay? I value life, no question about it. No? I believe in the sanctity of human life. I believe that man is created in the image of God. No? I have spent the whole time understanding Imago Dei in the seminary. But when I look at my everyday calendar, my weekly calendar, and my monthly and even yearly calendar, there's nothing about it supporting that in one sense. No? You can see maybe time with the family, church plant, and everything. So these are the valuable things in my life. So that is your core values. Target group, the people of community to whom we will be ministering and what they are like. And there's some philosophical disagreement here, because some will say, well, everybody is invited in my church, we'll target them. No? And some people will say that's even biblical, targeting people, that's not even biblical. But again, as I've said, you should know your target group of people, because that will determine what kind of ministry you have. Yeah. vision, what the church will be and what it will be doing in the future. No. Again, as I've said, that is very important to me because you're working towards that, accomplishing it. No. Accomplishing it. And the disciple-making pathway, the strategic plan for accomplishing what is defined by the above. Pathway is that, okay, we would like to have 10 churches here the next 5 years. Pathway is, how can we reach them? You see? So that's very important. Because if you just talk about, let's have 10 churches in 5 years, but you don't know how to reach that, no? That's a dream in the sky, right? No? So what are you going to do in order to reach 10 churches? In order for us to plant, let's say, 5 churches here in Selina. Did I say it correctly? No, Jelina. So how can we reach that? Okay, so maybe we need to invite 4 church plants in the next 2 years, right? In order for us to reach that. But how can we get these people here? So maybe we need to reach money, right? Maybe we need to recruit people. Maybe we need to go to the seminary. Maybe we need to talk to other churches and we'll ask them, can you lend us maybe your best people so that they will plant churches? I really don't know how you're going to do that, but at least you know the pathways in order for you to reach this. Because this vision will not happen if you're not going to do the actions. It will not happen automatically. And we have those kind of things in the past. In our denomination, when we say in year 2000 we're going to plant 2,000 churches. Not based on reality, and nothing is being happened or nothing being done in order for that to be accomplished. It's a good slogan, yeah. No? I was in Manila before. I was the district superintendent for the whole of Manila, and before I entered, there was a slogan: 4 by 94. That was it was a hit, a catchy like phrase of the target. 4 by 94. There were 4 churches, and we would like each of the church to plant more 4 churches in year 94. Okay? But nothing was being done to do that, to happen. No? Yeah. It's just a cute slogan. There was no attempt to recruit people. There was no training. There was nothing being done for the local churches so that they will plant churches. So they don't know what the pathway is. So we're going to talk about those things so that we will become effective. Again, these are the short definition. I will be giving you more detailed definition of this. Mission is the accurate understanding of God. Core values is the accurate understanding of self. Context is the accurate understanding of your ministry context. Reality is the gap between present reality and the preferred future. Again, let me repeat that. Mission is understanding God. What is the purpose of God for the church? Core values are the accurate understanding of self. Context is the accurate understanding of your ministry context. And reality is that the gap between present reality and the preferred future. Sharpening your focus using 3 important lenses. The scripture lens, understanding the New Testament principles, especially for church planting. Historical lens, the church history lessons. What are the lessons that we need to learn from history? And then lastly is the cultural lens, the cultural context. Yesterday I asked this question. I think I have a grasp of the answer, but let me repeat this to you. Because this is very important in church planting and multiplication. I asked this question: is Slovakia an individual kind of context or a community-based context? Because in our understanding for the spread of the gospel is that the gospel easily spread when it's community-based. Because when you reach the father or mother, you reach the whole family. In America, the family is so fractured. The son will be working one end in East Coast and the family is in West Coast. So if you reach the West Coast family, it doesn't mean you're going to reach the son who is living in the East Coast. it's highly individualistic as well. Not because my parents believe it, I will believe it. Right? But in let's say in India or Philippines or in China, when the father believes, everybody believes in the family. No? That's why there's a quick spread of the gospel because of the cultural context. No? And what I heard from people who answered that question saying, yeah, we are individualistic culture base here. And so therefore the spread of the gospel is slower in your context. No? And therefore you should have patience, especially those in leadership, in saying that let's move slowly because that is our context. Yes.
Question, I would say that our culture is more individualistic, but if we have a culture which is more community-based, and the transition of the gospel is through the family relations, which is, basically it's good, but it's really so deeply rooted, such faith. If father said and said the gospel and all the family will accept it, it is really so deeply accepted in the hearts of those people.
Okay.
I'm just asking because I would say that Slovakia in the past, in the history, was more community-based culture.
But is it forced community-based?
In the past,
Yeah.
I would say yes.
Yes. Yeah.
And this is different type of
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was the answer also yesterday, saying yes, we have community-based kind of culture, but in the past it was somehow forced upon us, and so we're right now maybe evaluating it carefully. But do you have that kind of setting wherein when the father believes, the whole family believes here? It's easy for you to share the gospel? No.
We have Catholic environment, which means if someone believes, he's rejected
Okay.
by family. So
Yeah.
it's not going to the family, but it's just cut off.
Yeah.
More like.
In that sense, you are a community based, right? Because you will be facing the community when you accept Jesus Christ and you become a Christian. The opposite of what I'm saying is that, for example, in India, you get the head of the clan, the family, and you have the whole neighborhood, all of us. Yeah, and that's how they'll say the gospel is growing so fast. No? Because of that. Yeah.
Could I actually say something about that? Because America is an individualistic society. When I was a young pastor, I was starting to notice something that I still notice in our culture as an individualistic society. I found that when I was an associate in a larger church, I was involved in a young married's Bible class, Sunday school, Bible Sunday class. And they were my contemporaries. And I was in my hometown, so I knew them. And 80% of the people in that class were women. And their husbands were not believers. And then as time went on, I pastored a church. And I had women whose husbands were not believers. But I noticed that when a man came to Christ, I had the whole family. In an individualistic society. It even worked there. We had men who held out for 20 or 25 years, and finally there was relationships that brought them to the Lord. But it took a long, long time. If the man came to the Lord, it's not unusual that within a year the whole family was a Christian. and really truly believed. They weren't just following the dictates of the father. So it's interesting that it can work also in a culture like this, I think. That would be my theory anyway.
We have the same situation in the Philippines as well as in America. The Filipinos wherein you will be cut off because you now a believer in Roman Catholic, because we have a very strong Roman Catholic presence in our culture. But it has also negative aspect, again, as I've said, because of all the bad things happening in the Roman Catholic Church. I mean, there's no joy in sharing these things, but it's just a reality, all the sexual scandal and everything. That loosened their grip on the people because all of a sudden they realize. Because before it was not open, right? It's only now that we are hearing these things because it's easy to somehow share it in the media. No? But in the past, that was the stronghold of the Roman Catholicism. When you become a believer, you will be kicked out from your family. But
We'll be talking through these things a lot over the next day.
But there's a value in what Pastor Steve said, that when you reach the husband, it's easier to reach the whole family. Okay? And when you reach the children, it's harder to reach the parents. It happens from time to time. No? Or sometimes it's the other way around, that I have, I think, 2 families in our church in Manila wherein the husband were the ones who become Christian first, and then the women, because they're really Catholic, they don't like to go to church. No? And they hold out for maybe 5 or 6 years before they attended the church. No? And so it varies, no? In that sense, but again, very important for us to understand these things. Okay, any questions? I think that's the last. That's the last slide. Yes, Esther.
Going back to what you said at the beginning, when you were reviewing about preparation. And I'm wondering if there are some specific things that tell you that your preparation time is complete and you're ready to move on.
Yes, and we will deal with that tomorrow. Yes, there will be things.
There will be, like, for example, we'll give you like a list. Was it 50 or 60 lists?
That's not really the thing that answers that
Oh,
question.
that question. Anyway.
Yeah. But how do you know when you're finished with one phase and moving on to the next?
Yeah. Well, again, as we said, you'll articulate all things with the phase. Each phase there will be a way to articulate the mission, the vision, the core values. And then when they're ready, then maybe you can move to the next stage. But it doesn't mean that it's final and it's like written on stone. You can go back again and somehow change it. In the course of our church plant, I think we changed our mission statement 3 times. 3 times. Because it's so hard to come up with a simple statement that is easy to remember and easy to somehow share it. Yes, we have seen mission statements that are like this long. And even the pastor could not share it because he doesn't really understand it. So we can simplify it so that we can put it on a t-shirt, no? And somehow understand it. No? So it takes time to do that.